Hello, Staci D. How are you?
I'm well, Paul Monty. Thank you for having me. How are
My
you?
pleasure. I am great. Staci Dickerson is with us. She's in movies. She's in TV shows. She's in commercials, industrials. She hand models. And if she looks familiar to you, it's because she has been a longstanding model and co-host to QVC. And we're definitely going to get to that. But I'm always curious, and I know it's common and cliche in this podcast, but I got to know how you started out. Like, I know you were at Cardinal O'Hara. So did it happen for you that early, or did it happen later on for you?
No, it happened after I graduated from college. But I did want to be a model in high school. In fact, one of the nuns wrote in my yearbook to a model student. I was like, I will keep this forever because she won't be around forever, but this book will.
There's the clue, right?
Right. So I saw in a documentary that somebody wrote something like that in Tyra Banks' book and in her yearbook. And I was like, wow, like I'm on the right track. So I went to college. I went to physical therapy school. I did not get my PT degree because my mom got ill. And so I came home to take care of her. But it kind of worked out because the classes I had finished had just taken really lined up with the care that I had to give her. So I'm like, maybe it was all for that. And I'm good with that. And so I was like, I want to be a model. Okay. How do I do this? Right. I don't know how to do this. So I felt like I didn't want to go to an agency with no experience. So I was like, I think I'm going to call, I have no idea why this popped in my head. I think I'm going to call some bridal boutiques. And I'm going to tell them that I need some bridal experience. I had no experience. I was like, I just need some bridal stuff. And I called around, and this shop in Drexel Hill called September's, I believe, was like, oh yeah, actually, we would love to have someone. I was like, and I'm in. So I went and I did that. And I was like, yeah, I don't have representation yet. And I would always ask, are there, what agencies do you work with? And they were like, oh, you should definitely go to Denise Askins Models in Philadelphia. Tell them that I sent you. I was like, okay. So I psych myself up. Weeks go by. I psych myself up. My mom's like, what are you waiting for? I'm like, I don't know. I just got to make sure. So I psych myself up. I get myself together. And I call and I'm ready to go. I'm just letting them know. I'm like, hi, I'm going to come in. And they're like, okay, so our open call are on Thursday. Well, this was like a Tuesday or it was on a Tuesday and this was a Thursday. I was like, oh no, I can't wait. Like I've primed the pump. I'm ready to go. I can't go another, almost week before I do this. And I was kind of feeling defeated. And my mom goes, just go. And I was like, but they said not to. She said, go. Okay. So I had the address, I had the map busted. I didn't know where it was before we had cell phones. And I found myself in the complex, but I was wandering around and I didn't know where exactly it was. And somebody stuck their head on there like, are you lost? And I told them where I was looking and she pointed me in the right direction. And by the time I got up there, the owner of the agency, Denise, was standing at the doorway talking to another model. And she had been given the heads up. And she's like, there's a beautiful girl that's coming your way. She should be, arriving any second. And I walked in and I was like, hi, I'm looking for, and she said, yes, we will take you.
Just like that?
Just like that. Because it's funny. She was actually having a conversation with another model. Like, I need another like light-skinned African-American, this height, this build. I need another one of them because there was like only one she had on her board. She's like, I can't clone you. I need more than one. They say that success happens when preparedness meets luck. I feel like I did my part and the universe did the rest with a little nudge from my mom. Isn't
it interesting, Stace, how it seems that we need a lot of encouragement and we need a nudge to take that first step? I know I did. Yeah. I remember back in 2008, it took me a year and a half to have the gumption to take my first acting class at Mike Lemon Casting in Philly. And from there, it was all downhill. Mm-hmm. But to take that first step to go, do I have any business doing this? There's just something about, we need a catalyst. We need a trigger to get us over that initial hump.
Right. And it's like we need confirmation. Like, no, you are supposed to be doing this. Go do it. That validation. Yeah, I get it.
So let that be a lesson, everybody. You know, if you're hemming and hawing over trying to do something new, just shut your brain off and just take the step, because then you get to go downhill from there.
It's not going to cost you anything, but maybe like a hit to your ego. Like there'll be so many more. Like you should start getting used to it. So just do it. Just do it.
So you modeled first before you started acting.
Right.
Okay. So how long was the modeling before you started to want to say, I want to start saying some words here?
I didn't decide that. My agent did. So Denise worked closely with Mike Lemon Casting, and I was just interested in doing my thing on the runway and print. And she's like, sends me this, calls me, actually, back in the day. We didn't have email yet. She calls me. She's like, they want to see you over at Mike Lemon Casting for a commercial. And I was like, a modeling commercial? What are we? She's like, no, a commercial. I was like, but I'm not an actor. I'm a model. And she's like, but they want to see you. And I was like, okay. So I went and I got it. And I was like, well, this is interesting. But I was still trying to be Tyra Banks. I was trying to get to the catwalks of New York City. I was like, this is fun. So I got called in a couple of times. I just found, I will get it at some point while we're doing this and show you, because I just found the Polaroid that they took of me. I booked my first SAG job, my first legit commercial job was for the Pennsylvania Lottery. And it was 70s theme. And I had this big curly afro wig and this like polyester leisure suit on. And they had this old hoopty car with a rig attached to it. And I'm supposed to be driving down the street and I've got the winning ticket and I'm driving and I'm saying, get out of my way. I've got the winning ticket in my hand. So I was like, they called me back for something else. And I was like, I can do this and that. It's not costing anything more than the modeling gig. Like I don't have to go farther or anything. And so I said to Denise, I was like, Denise, why do they keep calling me in? Like, I'm not an actress. She's like, we must be doing something right, because they keep asking to see you. So I just did it here and there because I was still really loving modeling. In fact, I would get kind of forlorn when I would think about the time when I would say, back when I was a model, I was like, I don't ever want to say that. I just really was loving it. And I was still in the infant stages of kind of having fulfilled my dream of being a model. So I just kind of did it on the side. And then around 2008, I was like, yeah, I think it's time. I had had a couple of things happen in my personal life that were it was a bit of an upheaval. And I thought, shut it out, which is what work has always done for me, right? Without even knowing it at the time, it gives me something to focus on. And so I was like, all right, it's time to take the acting thing up a notch. So I went to Wendy Ward acting studios in Philadelphia. She was right out in a little space off of Rittenhouse, and it was a 9-month program, and it was really interesting, and I enjoyed it because it was a great outlet. But I was like, I don't see how this is gonna work. It was all Meisner training, and I couldn't, in my mind, make the connection to the work I knew I wanted to do acting wise. But I was like, you know what? Maybe this is a building block. And so I did it, and I felt great about it, and I put it on my resume, and I went back to my life. And by this time I was really up and running at QVC, which is just such a great job because if you're there enough, it can be like a full-time salary with part-time, 100% flexible hours. Like you're a contractor, you're not an employee. So they offer to you and you say yes or no. They're like, can you do this? Actually, I can't. And if something happens last minute, if Dick Wolf calls, I'm sorry, I'm not available to put your lipstick on. I'm just not. It's not.
And Dick Wolf did call.
And Dick Wolf did.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, Dick Wolf did call. Right. So I just was, kind of doing the QVC thing and the modeling thing. And after that class, I was just kind of going around and around. And I was like, man, I'm not getting the traction that I want. I was hitting things, but I was winging it. I think I was just going off of kind of my intuition. And Amy Garber, who we were working together at Q, and she was having me read for her. I was like, where are you getting this stuff? And so I got with Peter Coe, and I was okay. But then she was like, well, I go to this guy named Brian in Wayne. And I was like, Brian and Wayne, keep talking. I'm like, you are giving it up. Like, you're not going to gatekeep this. And it was the best decision I ever made. When I walked into that studio, that space for the first time, I was like, yeah, this is going to work. I felt there was something really, I know everybody probably thinks their acting coach is the best out there, but there is something so special about Brian Fox and the way he not only teaches his technique, but the way he just is as a human being, his ability to kind of relate to his students and bring out the very best in them. And even his notes, you never leave like really feeling bad about any performance that you've done. Like you didn't hit it on the head. It's like, so what? So bring it back, iron it out, flesh it out, get off book, get it in your bones, and we'll do it again. And he will let you run that scene until you feel like you've put a period on the end of it. And it's also a great resource for auditions because you can go to his space and he'll do a self-tape with you. If you feel like you need some coaching through it, you can do a self-tape with him. It's just such a bountiful place for an actor to be plugged into. So that was the big game change for me.
Incredible. Of course, you're referring to Actors Lab Philly in Pennsylvania. And we are classmates, full disclosure, everybody.
Yes, it's great.
I'm so happy I found the lab too, because my ego said to me years ago, oh, you've been at this 15, 16 years. You know what you're doing. But it's the gym. If you're a green actor, obviously you need training. Mm-hmm. And if you've been at it for a while, you still need the gym. You have to go and flex those muscles. And honestly, before I started going to the lab, I would sweat the Law and Order auditions. I don't sweat them anymore. That muscle's been flexed.
Right?
Yeah.
You don't get nervous. You get excited. Like Brian says, yeah, we still get butterflies, but now they fly in formation.
I like that. Very, very cool. And you clearly have talent, even though that you were doing it part-time kind of sort of to start, because you have built up a resume over the years. You did Law and Order. You did House of Cards. You did Terrifier 2, very acclaimed horror film. Audrey's Children, Zero Day with Robert De Niro, and most recently, Song Sung Blue with Hugh Jackman and Kate Hudson. Now, the one thing I want to bring up is that over most of these legit credits that you've amassed, you've played a reporter more than once. I think the reporter role and the photographer roles are the way for the regional actors to get into these legit shows. It's definitely an avenue in. What's your take on typecasting for us? Is it a blessing or a curse?
So I think it's both, right? And I think it depends on what you want out of your career. If what you want is to be a working actor, and you get known as the girl or the man who can nail a reporter role, then you're a working actor and you get to do what you love in your craft and get compensation for it and feel good about it. If you're looking to go beyond, I look at everything I do acting wise as an opportunity to either grow or hone. So I'm either building something or I'm working on something. I'm polishing it, right? I'm about to be the best dang reporter you've ever seen. And I'm going to make sure I have a collaborative relationship with my agents. I'm with Ken Park Talent in New York. And he's so good about sending me out for the things he thinks that are the roles that are right for me. Not just African-American woman, 5'10", blah, 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 right? And I can say to him, like, listen, because you're sending me on a lot of commercial stuff, which commercial work is great. Again, depending upon your goals as an actor. Commercial work for me paid well enough to make me not, be so nervous in the in-between legit jobs. But I called him and I was like, so loving the teleprompter work, loving the commercial work. Thank you so much. And I really would like to do more commercial, more legit work. And he's like, I'm on it. And instantly started sending me out for those things. So I think sometimes it's not necessarily the casting directors will see you in a way. Your agent is submitting you for things. Right. So if they keep submitting you for reporter because you keep booking reporter, which works in their favor, right? Because when you book, they book essentially. I think sometimes it's just having a conversation with your booker, your agent saying, listen, I want to branch out. Can you look for roles that would be appropriate for me? Mother roles, young mother, older mother, mother of the bride, whatever. Right. Coach, the most I've done is reporter, doctor. Those are medical field and like reporter or like lawyer have been the things that I've been called in for the most. But I've been called in for mom. I've been called in for teacher. It's always your responsibility as the artist to make sure that you are at least putting yourself in the best position to get the opportunities that you want. It is your career. Do not let your agent pigeonhole you. Do not let your agent and sometimes it's unintentional. It's just like, okay, I know I can count on that talent for this. right? I know she's going to do a great job. She's going to always represent us well. I can count on her. I'm going to submit her for that. Great. I will take it all. Improv, yes. And I would like other opportunities as well.
It's interesting because you would think that it would just go without saying that every actor would want every plum opportunity, but you have to have a conversation with your agent and tell them your goals.
Absolutely. Feedback is important. If you have an agent you can't talk to, if someone says, well, you should tell your agent or you should ask your agent, and you go, I don't know, you might want to rethink your relationship with that agent and do a little self-reflection. Like, why am I? Am I afraid because of a reaction that I've gotten, or am I afraid to bother them? Because if I'm afraid to bother them, you are in charge of your career. It is not their job to develop you unless that's the arrangement that you have. It's not their job to guide. You are the only one that knows truly what you want to do unless you tell them. And so it's your responsibility to either tell them, and then sometimes gently remind them, because you're not the only talent that they have.
And you can't be afraid of not necessarily criticism, but feedback in terms of, hey, maybe you should take a class. Maybe you should get some training.
I always want to know, like, if things, because I have other agents in other markets, if it gets a little quiet, I'm like, first thing I think is I should probably get a new headshot. How long has it been since I refreshed my headshot? Because casting directors and agents, that says to them that you aren't just sitting back doing nothing, waiting for them to hand you the work. So I have to do my part. Getting a new headshot in 2026 is on the list. It's at the top of the list. I was trying to cram it in at the end of the year, and I was like, it's not going to happen. So do I have the right headshot? Do I need training? Do I need to, just asking myself questions and then asking my agent, like, hey, people are so afraid to ask their agents, like, for a submission report. I'm of the belief that your agent, if you go to your agent, you ask them that you want input about your career, the first thing they should say is, well, let's look at the submission report. Let's see what we've been submitting you for, what you've landed, what you haven't landed. And then we'll work back. Like, I'm a big fan of reverse engineering a problem. Where do I want to go? I want to land this type of role. Well, let's look at the submission report. Let's see the type of roles that you have landed, the type of roles you haven't, the type of roles you've been called in for, the type of roles you've gotten callbacks for, the type of roles that you've gotten a callback, but you haven't booked it. I was stuck in a rut at one point where I was like getting the audition, getting the callback, couldn't close the deal. And I said to Brian, I'm like, why can't I close the deal? And I asked him, I was like, can we do some callback type audition drills where this is the callback and you give me an adjustment without instructing us in the way that he does when we're just in class setting, so that my brain has to think on the fly. And I, at the end of that, will get the feedback when he says, go a little bit angrier, or go a little bit, take your foot off the gas a little bit. Did I stop completely, or did I take my foot off the gas? And get that so I can see what that feels. Because if I think I'm taking my foot off the gas slightly, but when I get that note, I stop doing it all the way through. Or they say, okay, now just pick up the pace a little bit, or up the stakes. And then I'm angry throughout the whole thing. And I just keep doing that. That may be why I'm not closing the deal. Now, it could also be because they decide to go with a blonde, right? And there's a certain aspect of, you got to let it go. You got to just know that you're not always going to know what happens, and you audition, you do the very best that you can, but doing the very, very best you can is always checking in with yourself and saying, what can I do to tweak it on my end? Then you know that it's up to the universe.
When I see the commercial on TV that I didn't book, I always make sure that the person doesn't look exactly like me. And 99% of the time, they don't look like me. So I don't feel so bad. If they're a spitting image of me from 50 feet away, then I have a spiral.
Then you're like, oh, they probably knew the casting director. Right?
Maybe.
Like, I did, the first time Dick Wolf called, I was auditioning. It was a pretty decent scene with Mariska, and I called Brian. The butterflies were not really flying in formation. They were kind of flying all over the place. And I was like, okay, let me get my Zen on. And we ran it a couple times. He's like, yep, I think one of those two, it's in there. Send those off. I feel good about it. And then I didn't hear anything. And then I watched it. And who booked it? Tracy Wolf from Lethal Weapon, who doesn't look like me, but she's my look. And I was like this just sinking feeling. But then I watched it and I was like, but Tracy's a little bit older than me. And Tracy has so many credits. And I know that she's local, right? And she was acting full time. And she's even done some smaller things over on this end. And I was like, she may be trying to get her foot back in the door. She may be wanting to, now that her kids are grown get back into it. And so this may have been an opportunity for her to jump in. The producers, the directors, the casting directors might have been like, we don't know. Staci D doesn't have a lot of credits. She might be okay. We know Tracy's a home run, right? So that's why you just gotta let it go, because you're never gonna know.
It's all about insurance. That's the thing. They got to know that whether it's name recognition or someone who has 1,000 credits, they got to know that when it comes time to say action, it's going to happen. And it's so interesting that you rehearse with Brian the callbacks. I think that's really awesome. And how you prepare for that scenario, because you have to be ready for adjustments. As much as we try to think, all right, this is how I'm going to do it, and you convince yourself that you're right in one particular line of thinking on how you're going to approach a character or a role or a scene. But you have to be ready to do the opposite, or to do variations of intensities. That happens to me every week in callback situations. Again, you may have done a great job. And the thing is like, we never really know if we're doing a good job. But I was told a while ago that, hey, if you're getting the audition, they're not going to waste their time if they feel you can't do the job. They're just not going to waste their eyeballs and their ears and their time. So take the audition and the callback as proof, as evidence that you're doing your job correctly. And what does Brian always say to us? He says that producers and directors say that we see good every day. So they could split that hair 100 ways.
Exactly.
We know that. It still smarts. It still stings a bit knowing that.
It does.
Hey,
we're human.
Yeah, we did everything we possibly could do. And
we have feelings.
Crickets.
We're actors. We have all of them to Google the Han.
We're not just robots.
We're not. And we wouldn't be good at when we land the job, we wouldn't be good at it if we were that robotic, if we weren't in touch with something. Because the final cut of the Law and Order episode, the final thing they had me do on set, I don't want to say it wasn't at all what I did, but there was some blocking that had to change on the fly because you're out on the street. It was 20 degrees out there. It was the day after Super Bowl 2 years ago. I was doing the line, but he was like, I need you to do something. I discover the CEO's dead body on the sidewalk. And so I come up and, you don't want to be, right? You want to be truthful. So I was shocked and upset, but I had to cue the other actors because they were down, covering the body, looking for evidence and whatever. So me coming in and be like, oh my God, is that my CEO? They couldn't hear me to know when to look up and address me. So he's like, I want you to come and be like, oh my God, is that him? Is he dead? And so that's what we landed on. And I didn't know until I saw it. And I was like, okay, all right. Because when you're shifting on the fly, there's no time to really consider, am I going too big? Am I going too small? Am I responding appropriately? You just have to do it. And that's why training is so important. So you get that muscle memory.
Of course. And you have to trust your director too.
You have to trust your director and trust that he's going to be like, nah, it's not right. Do it again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hey, I felt that pressure. I felt that pressure when I did Banshee on Cinemax. It was 3 a.m. on a Friday. It was the last shot of a long week. You have 30-person crew that just wants to go to bed, and the director comes over and whispers to me, not quite feeling it, Paul. Let's do it again. I'm like,
like, what does that
tell me
mean?
what you want. Tell me what you want. It was a scene where I was being choked. Mm-hmm. So I just decided I'm not going to breathe. I'm going to asphyxiate. I'm going to just not take in oxygen and see how I'll react. I'm just going to go there. Mm-hmm. And thankfully on takes 2 and 3, I got the A-OK sign. So
excellent. Yeah.
Glad it transferred over.
It's hard though. It's hard to know until you're doing it. And that's, it's part of the gig.
Yeah. Sometimes acting is pain. What was I'm curious, like Song Sung Blue. I just want to touch on that experience. Yeah. What tell me about the set experience on that show.
It was great. Everybody was really kind. I got to set and it was one of those things like, the call sheet always comes out so last minute. You don't know where you're going. You don't know what time you're going to be. You have to be there. And we always assume it's going to be like a 7 a.m. call time. Right. So I reached out to my agent. I was like, I don't have a call sheet yet. Like, I don't even know who to call. And he was like, let me look into it. I finally got it. I didn't have to be there till 3:00 in the afternoon. It wasn't in New York City. It was in Princeton or right outside of Princeton. So I didn't have to fight to get into the city. I got there. They took me to my trailer. They give me, my mini script to rehearse my lines. And then they sent me over to hair and makeup, did the things. And I sat down in the chair. And when I looked at my call sheet, it had stand-in next to Hugh Jackman and Kate Hudson. And I was like, oh, they're not even going to be here. Okay, whatever. So I sit in the chair to get my hair and makeup done. And I look over and I'm like, that's Kate sitting right next to me. Okay. And she had her curlers in, and she was on the phone and she was talking to her makeup artist. She was not happy about something. I was like, yeah, this is not the moment. I'm not introducing myself. So I'm there, and then the door opens and this burly guy comes in and he's like laughing and they're joking with them. And I was like in the mirror and I was like, yep, that's Jim Belushi right there. And he did come over and say hello and introduce himself. So I was in my trailer, you're alone until you hear the, knock on the door. We're ready for you. Staci, you ready? Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm ready. I'm like doing the lines. And then you have to just kind of like let it go. You have to let it go. Like that's how I was in college. Like I'd be studying up until they said pencils down, and it just rattled me more. So I'm like, I know my lines. It's time to go to set. So we get there and get to set, and it's crowded, and they were shooting a scene where they were performing, and it's a break. And so I'm supposed to be the reporter that is interviewing them. And they come over and they're like, can we run the lines? Which always makes you feel good as the actor on set, like the day player, like, oh, they don't know their lines. Okay, great. All right. Kate Hudson has to look at her. And she's like, wait, what's that line again? I'm like, I love it. I love it. It just reinforces the fact that they're human, right?
Right.
So Hugh's like, hi, I'm Hugh. Nice to meet you. And I was like, hi, I'm Staci. Nice to meet you too. And she was like, hi, I'm Kate. Hi, Kate. Nice to meet you. Of course, in my head, I was not that cool. I was like, I know who you are. I know who you are, Hugh Jackman. But everything you've ever heard about how kind Hugh Jackman is absolutely true. We did a couple takes. I flubbed once, but Kate flubbed it a couple times. And then it was direction. So it was like, you're drunk, but you're not that drunk. You're a little less drunk, and it was just kind of massaging it. And so we went through that. It took maybe 10 minutes. And then they were like, okay, moving on. And Hugh once again came over, shook my hand. He was like, you did a great job. Thanks so much for being here. Just super gracious, super kind. And that was it. They were like, all right, that's a wrap for Staci. And I was out the door and back on the road. So I spent more time in my trailer and in the car than I did on set, but it was great. And then when I went to the movie theater to see it, and I mean, we've talked about this, how I don't say anything to anybody really until it's out. And I've seen it and I know I haven't been cut, because we all know that can happen. You end up on the cutting room floor. And so I was watching it. I had my phone ready and I'm in the theater, I'm watching, and I see what looks to be the scenes that I would have been in. And I was like, oh, yeah, I think I got cut. Oh, well. So I'm watching it. And then I'm like, oh, well, wait a minute. It seems like we're coming back. There's another upswing. Well, maybe I'll be in it. But then I got so engrossed in the story because it's such a good story. All of a sudden I was like, oh my God, that's me. And I'm trying to get my phone and I got the funniest picture of me. Like, it's just like a half, like but I'm like, I don't care. I'm still going to post it, because don't take yourself that seriously. You still got it. I stayed and made sure I was in the credits. And so I was happy. It was a great opportunity. 10 out of 10. No complaint.
Beautiful. And it was wonderful for Hugh to be so kind, because he knows that that's a story you're going to tell for the rest of your days.
Yes. I'm sure somebody was kind to him, or maybe they weren't. And that, because it's either or sometimes. But it's good that I agree with you. He's aware that as a newer actor who doesn't have a big part, that it all means so much to us. And that's just part of it. Like, that just took it to another level. Because, they say don't ever meet your heroes. We're always like a little like, I had one bad experience with one person who I won't even mention, but I was like, yep, the rumors are true. Rumors are true. Not so great. Not so great. But yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah, we all have those stories in our files. We pine for these not small roles, but short roles in TV and movies, since we're regional actors, but we also have the chance to do more elongated character arcs. And the case in point for you is the Sacrum Vindictae series.
Yeah.
You really got to play a very major character in these movies. Like, granted, they're labors of love. They're independent films made locally, but you get to really feel what it's like to have a major role, and you get to have a weighty, meaty role and feel your chops as an actress.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I mean, I look at every opportunity to act as an opportunity to act, and I really don't judge it. The only judgment I will have is, does it tuck into my life, right? So if it's a small role, in an independent film and someone's asked me to be a part of it, obviously I'm appreciative that I was even asked to be a part of it. But if I have that on my reel a couple of times, right, I might not do it, especially if it's going to interfere with other work that I'm going to be doing. If I know I'm going to be auditioning a lot, or I've got something I need to prepare for, I might pass. Thank you so much, but I'm not available. And Fabian, the writer, director, and actor, who was in charge of this, who was his project, ran such a top-notch set, and the people that he had on his set made it such an amazing experience. I was so happy for people who were newer to the field to get that type of experience when the stakes aren't so high, right? When it's not Scorsese, when it's not Dick Wolf, where if you crash and burn, that might be it for you. Like it was still a safe space to learn and be able to watch how it worked. So it was definitely the biggest opportunity to flex my acting muscles. The second one, it was first time with physicality. I had to do a fight scene with Fabian and I kicked his ass. But that was fun, right? And then when he said, by the end of filming that one, he's like, yeah, we're going to do a 3. And are you okay with kissing? And I was like, yeah. I was like, yeah, I am. I'm fine with it, right? I know Fabian knew he'd be a consummate professional, and he was. But so it was the longer arc, and the first time with having to do intimacy work and having to be on set that many days with that much copy, and not just memorizing this scene, working this scene as it has to lead into another scene. It has to be coming from another scene. Like having that sense of place where you're coming from and where you're going has to be very cohesive. In class, we make it up, right? Because we only have a little snippet. But in a feature film or even in a short, you really got to read the whole thing, because you really got to understand how your scene fits into the rest of the scenes, especially since you may be filming those scenes out of order.
You got to have a sense of time and place, and because it's not theater. It's not, you can't create that arc. You're not in control of your character in that way. You know, we're in a director's medium, so yeah. You have to be within those confines, those bubbles per scene.
Right. I mean, we did the climax. There's a big climactic scene with fire and everything, and it's tragic. And I think we shot that first one night. So I had to get there. The scene that happens at the end of the movie, I had to start there, and I had to not just be hysterical, but I also had to be drained because of what I just came from, even though I just came from lunch, right? Even though this was on set. Right? So yeah, just really being mindful of all of those things, because if I was just hysterical but not kind of weathered by the prior circumstance that I was coming from, it would read differently.
Of course, totally get it. And it's a wonderful outlet when someone has the fortitude to write something and then say, hey, we're going to make this. Clearly, the budgets are always a challenge, but if you have the right team around you, if you have the people who can execute and support and are going to do the little things right, then you can create something that you're all proud of. And that series is certainly an example of it. You can watch it on Tubi if you like, folks. Yeah,
it was definitely probably the most fun I've had doing a project, for different reasons. Like it was a thrill, doing Law and Order. But this was, wow, I really get to apply what I've learned in class, apply what I've learned over the years, work collaboratively with some of my classmates who I love and adore, and really bring a level of creativity to this project that you don't always have the flexibility and availability to do on, something else that you're not as involved in.
For example, say QVC. So let's get to it. The Q has been the lifeboat for many of us who are inclined to be in front of the camera in the Philadelphia area, and you've been there a long time. Mm-hmm. I want to know, in your perspective, what is the reality of being a QVC model?
I was training a class of 30 new models they were potential. Me and another girl. It was a lot. It was an all-day thing. We're training fashion, we're training beauty, we're training jewelry. We're throwing so much at them, right? Because it's not like anything you've ever done before. I don't care if you've acted. the biggest glaring difference with acting is you're not supposed to stare down the lens, right? If you're acting, the lens is supposed to observe you. Well, at Q, you're in the camera, right? So it's very different. And we get them all this information, but I'm like, listen, at the end of the day, this is an amazing job. This is the best job ever for someone if you have another creative outlet, another creative job that you want to do, because you have the flexibility to say yes or no. Yes, you have to be committed in the beginning. If you say no too much in the beginning because you're like, oh, it's 1:00 in the morning. Oh, how much money? Like, let's be clear. You're not making the money off of the airing. You're making the money off of the recurring airings, right? So you go and you make a great impression on QVC, you make a great impression on the vendor rep, and you make a great impression on the client. Then we're like, yeah, I want her again. I want her again. You spike the sales. They're watching the dollars per minute screen. You spiking it, you're coming back again. And so that's what gives you the longevity there. But it's not a place you can make as much money. I tell them you can make as much or as little. Like, the amount of effort that you put into it, just like acting, is completely up to you. But it is not curtailed to anyone. They're not giving anybody special hours. They're not like, well, I'm coming from far. Can you give me, like, if you're going to book me, can you like book me like back-to-back things? That's not a thing. You're gonna have to roll with the punches and know that it ebbs and flows, and you can't get jealous that someone has something that you don't. And the overall feeling, which was probably the thing that struck me the most when I went there, was that there was no cattiness. Because when you start modeling, everybody's looking at everybody, and it's all this, competition. And at QVC, there's enough for everybody. You're always going to have the one or two folks that are like, how am I going to get booked for that? I don't know. I couldn't tell you. But, generally speaking, we're there to help each other. We have mature models there as well. And there was a mature model that we love and adore. She came in and I didn't see it, but she had just, before she walked in, she tripped and she fell. And I didn't realize that. She was walking really slow, and we just all kind of took care of her. I'm like, one of us held the door. The other one went down and escorted her and gave her an arm. We sat her down and helped her get herself together. And we're like, we're going to get you some water. And did you eat anything today, Helen? Like, okay, we're going to get you a yogurt, get you a little protein. And she's like, stop. We're like, no, we're not stopping. We're going to walk you to your car. You're not walking me. We're walking you to your car. Right. So it's such a family type of environment there. There's no drama. And if you see some drama, just avoid the drama. And trust me, the drama folks, they don't last very long. And we celebrate everybody's highs and lows. We go to weddings and births and funerals and everything in between. So it has been such a huge blessing and such a godsend. When my child was small, so many of us, our kids are grown now. My son is 31. But so many of us, that job allowed us to make the money kind of like a full-time money on a part-time job, where I could go in the morning and get him off the bus. Or I could get him to bed, and while he's sleeping, I can make money to help support us. As a single mom, that was like, it was a hustle and it was a grind, but it paid off. And so almost 30 years later, I'm like, I love working for QVC. I really, really do. I don't think that I would still be there if I did it.
Wow, almost 30 years. God bless you.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite vendor?
I worked for almost 10 years. I worked for Joan Rivers, and I just saw her every day. She was such a, obviously everybody knows the character. Everybody wanted to know, what's Joan like? Is she really like that? I'm like, that's her shtick, right? That's what works for her. Yes, she's witty. But when I would come in, when my son was young, she'd be like, what'd you feed your son for breakfast this morning? She's like, none of that crap. Don't be giving him Pop-Tarts. I was like, organic eggs and nitrate-free bacon. And she's like, okay, good. Right? I had to bring him with me. I said, Joan, just so you know, if I decline a booking, it's not because I don't want to be here. Like, I might not have a babysitter for my son. She's like, bring him. I was like, oh, no. She's like, bring him. So I get there, and one of her business partners was like, no, we can't have this. Like, no, not in the green room. No. And I was like, okay, I'll figure it out. Cause now I'm like, all right, I got him here. What am I gonna do with him? So I take him back with me, and I'm like, listen, you're just gonna sit here and you're gonna be quiet and you're gonna play your game quiet, and it's gonna be fine. And we're gonna be gone in an hour. And I'm getting myself ready, and somebody else from her team comes in. They're like, where's your son? And I said, oh, he's over there. He's on his Game Boy. He's fine. She's like, well, we're gonna take him. I said, no. They said no. She's like, Joan told me to come get your son. I said, okay. And by the time I was off air, she had given him jewelry samples to give out as Christmas presents. And later that night, I'm like, doing laundry or something. I find this money in his pocket. I'm like, where did you get $50? He was like, oh, from Joan. And I was like, who? He's like, from Miss Joan Rivers. And I was like, did you take money from Joan? And he's like, no, Mom, she gave it to me. Joan gave you $50? And he's like, yeah. It's like, okay. So I went to work next time. I was like, Joan, thank you so much for the gift. She's like, did he buy you something? Because I gave him money and I told him to buy his mother something for Christmas. Just, that's how she was. She was everybody's mother. She didn't want to see anybody go without. We had, plates of cookies and things in her green room. If there was any food that was left over, she was taking the plates of cookies out and giving them to the security guards at the front desk. She was just an amazing, kind soul. And while we miss her every day, and I wear her B pin on my lanyard. There's not a time that you're not in the building that you're not, at some point, I don't think about her. And I'm just happy to have known her, to been able to get to really know her.
That is such a heartwarming story. Thanks for sharing it. And I was at the Q for 11 years. I'm not sure if you knew. I had a desk job there.
Oh, right. You did tell me that.
In creative services, and I interned there in college. So I knew my way around Studio Park. Mm-hmm. One day I almost inadvertently stepped on one of her dogs as it was being let out to go, but instead it decided to take a number 2 right in the atrium. So that's my one Joan dog story, and I was blessed to do a print shoot at her place in New York a couple of years before she passed. And it's such a beautiful place, and she force fed us M&Ms.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Make sure you have M&Ms, Paul. I'm like, okay, no problem. It just it's similar stories, just salt of the earth and just a warm, kind spirit.
They tried. The staff was trying. They were like, don't touch this, and you can't sit there. You can. And she was like, stop telling my girls what to do. These are my girls. They're in my home. They're my guests. Leave them alone. I was like, told you.
Clearly, like you have a favorite vendor in Joan. What are the challenges at the Q? Is it just about the timing? Like if like a 3 a.m. shoot, is that pretty much like the one hurdle that never gets lower?
Yeah, I mean, it is a grind, and sometimes you've got like a week where it's kind of light. And then there's other times when you're like, oh my God, what day is it? What time is it? Leaving last night, Rice Krispies in tow. Like I was like, I need to make some of these Rice Krispies before stuff goes. So I'll just take them to work with me. I'm like, happy MLK Day. Here's some Rice Krispie treats. And I walk out and bam, hit black ice and went down hard. And I'm just laying there like, okay, I think I can move everything, and I'm still conscious. So you get up and you go in, and immediately folks are like, here, sit down. I'll get you, I'm not, the mature model that we helped today, but didn't matter. They were like, here, just sit with a chair at the back. Don't sit on a stool. Like it all comes around, right? You grin and bear the crappy stuff because you know that you're gonna come up. It's not gonna stay low. And you really enjoy the high times, in the weeks you learn after a while, when you first start there, and if you have a quiet week, you're like, oh no, they don't like me anymore. They don't want me. It's over. And then as time goes by, you realize it ebbs and flows, and you're like, oh, I got a light week. I'm going to enjoy it. So you enjoy those times and you roll with the ones that are a little bit more challenging.
Sure. Yeah. Light weeks mean that you are not failing, that you're not forgotten. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. And I have to constantly remind myself of that because I'm used to having some rhythm of auditions, but if a week goes by, I start to think, am I no good no more? And that is a mentality that I absolutely should not have, but it's still there.
Like I said, we're humans, and it's just something that, you're aware of it, right? So when you have those feelings, you're like, you know what, just push that away. Let's not dwell on that. I think it's fine to consider, does this mean something? And go, And at the end of the day, I really try not to fret over things that I can't control. I'm like, that's in my circle number 3, right? I follow this guide of circles. Circle number 1 is everything that you control. It's what you do, what you don't do, direct actions that you're in control of. Circle number 2, that's the conversations, the relationships, the conversations with friends, families, neighbors, that type of thing, the relationships. And then circle 3 is everything else. And 80% of the things that you are concerned about, like really concerned about, should be in your circle number 1. Because if you are really concerned about 80% of the things that are in your circle number 3, you're spinning your wheels. You're draining yourself. You have no control over that, right? And it's something that I think a lot of us are having to remind ourselves of right now. So I apply it to a lot of things. I'm like, yeah, I wasn't late. I didn't miss anything. I know I did a good job when I was there. Circle number 3. Because they might not call me back again, but it may be because something has changed that has nothing to do with me. So as long as I'm showing up and doing my best, it's just freeing the roster for somebody else to be able to use me.
Very cool. I was just going to ask you what your pearls of wisdom were. That's how I love to end a podcast. And I think I just got them with the circles.
Yeah, the circles are definitely something. It's new, something a friend online introduced me to. And boy, it fits. That, and we don't all get to walk through the doors we hold open. Sometimes we're holding the door open for someone else. And that's okay too. You still look for the win and you still do the work.
Deep. I'm telling you, I love getting deep. It's fine. I love it.
Yeah.
And I do the work even if it's not for yourself.
Yeah, do the work, because not everything that happens to us is for us or about us, right? Sometimes it's so someone else can observe how we're overcoming something. Sometimes it's so someone else can observe how we are not overcoming something and not to do that. Like, she completely lost her mind. Was it that serious? It's like, wow, I really had a moment there. It's like, yeah, it's like, okay, I don't want to do that. We're all connected, not to sound so, too woo-woo, but we are really all connected. So that's where, doing the work and looking for the wins comes from. Like, I don't look at it as like look for the wins and suffer through and dig yourself out of the losses. Just keep doing the work. Just keep doing the work.
And eventually a seed sprouts, right?
That's right. You may plant a seed that somebody else gets to water. Don't begrudge them that. Don't begrudge them that opportunity, right? You did your part. Now let it go.
There you go. Beautiful. I love it, Stace. Thank you so much. My God. Where can people find you? Can they find you on the Instagram or what?
On the gram, yeah. I'm Staci Dickerson, Staci Dickerson on IG. I'm getting ready to post my thing about Song Sung Blue and my quirky weird picture, and I take it as a personal. It's a sign of growth. It's a sign of my comfortability in my own body that I can post an unideal, especially as an actor and a model, a not ideal picture of myself for the world to see. I'm like, yeah, that's all I got, but I got it and I was there and I'm grateful. Lead with gratitude. Be grateful.
I'm still working on that. Putting up an unflattering photo.
Yeah, I mean,
that's a work in progress for me. Keep plugging away. Keep doing your thing. Keep watching Staci on QVC, folks. And I will see you in class, my dear.
I will see you in class. Thank you so much, Paul. This was wonderful. Bye, everyone.